There's a phrase that I heard somewhere and picked up along the way that says that in good times, friends are many, and in hard times, friends are few. And when I say that phrase, a lot of people viscerally have a reaction of like, oh, I know that experience of what it's like, that in good times, friends are many, and in hard times, friends are few. And yet many of us don't necessarily have an understanding of why that is. And I think it's true for people in general. I also think it's particularly true for pastors and for people in leadership, people who are walking with others, that as times are good, we're surrounded by people, we're celebrating with people, we're growing with people. But it's in those moments when hard times hit that it really almost causes a reevaluation of who are my friends and who do I trust. And the reason for that is that the trust that is needed to hold heavy things in life and heavy things in friendship is actually formed differently than the trust that's needed to celebrate and to grow and to delight. Which is why when we have people that we celebrate with and we do birthdays with and we do cohort learning development experiences with, it gives this experience of like we have friends and they are friends, and that is true connection and is beautiful. And yet, no matter how much we celebrate with people, no matter how many good times we have, those experiences never answer the question, when life gets heavy, can these friends hold the heavy things? Because the trust that is needed to hold heavy things in friendship and in relationship is actually only formed by holding heavy things in a relationship. And when it comes to pastors, we know, right? Galatians, Paul says to the church in Galatia, like, carry one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. So we have this theological framework that says we should be carrying things with each other. And yet so often I sit within my counseling office and in the work of Church Co. that we do, so often I sit with pastors who carry the burdens of others and their own. And there is this uncertainty about what do we do with our burdens? Where do we put them? Who can hold them? How do we engage that? How do we learn? How do we trust? And that trust factor is a really significant thing. And this is the work that we do at Church Co. That Church Co. exists to create spaces of brave relationship for pastors and church leaders. We talk a lot about not just having spaces that are safe, that actually safety is a bit of a, to put it on a binary, is a bit of a misnomer, that things aren't safe inherently or unsafe inherently, that actually safety is co-created and it's formed and it's developed. And so at Church Co. we create spaces of brave relationship for pastors and church leaders that we could explore what does it mean to move into deeper places of relationship where we can establish the trust that the heavy things that we carry can be formed. And we do that in a few different ways. We talk about different kinds of brave spaces, and we have 3 specific kinds of brave spaces that we engage in. We have some brave individual spaces, and we have a team of spiritual directors and of Christian counselors who walk with people individually in the heavy things and in the dark places of helping to cultivate some of the internal experiences that are needed in entering those places. So we have brave individual spaces. We have brave training spaces where we work with churches and leadership teams and do workshops for communities about how do we think about relationship and the formation of relationship that allows us to be brave together, to cultivate trust and community that is needed to walk through difficult and trying moments as they arise in our life. And so we have brave individual spaces and brave training spaces. And then we have brave communal spaces. And I would actually say that these brave communal spaces are the heartbeats of what we do. And what that looks like is we call them slow communities, and we call them pastoral care groups. They're kind of 2 different names for different populations that we work with. But in those groups, we're doing one thing in particular, is we're bringing together small groups of people in some shared leadership experiences and spaces. And we're wrestling together with the question, what does it take for us to begin to trust each other more deeply with heavy things? What does it take to move us collectively to a place where I can see you and be seen by you, where I can care about you and be cared about by you in the mess and in the challenges and in the weighty things of life? And so we orient those spaces around 4 practices, and we call them the slow practices of Church Co. And the 4 practices are survey, lament, own, and welcome. And in survey, we ask this question, hey, where am I? Where it's like taking our emotional relational pulse. Where am I in my marriage? Where am I in my relationship? Where am I in connection with God? Where am I in connection with myself? Where am I? So sometimes we just need to check in and say, do I even know where I am, where my orientation is in life? And so we survey. Lament is this question of what are the heavy things that we're holding? What is the weight? What's the pain that we're experiencing? What are the things that's weighing me down, holding me back, disrupting the way that I'm engaging, altering the way that I do engage or don't engage, or causing me to pull back or causing me to try harder? What's the pain that is there that I'm holding? The own question is in the recognition that anytime that I'm in pain, anytime that there's discomfort in me, it inherently changes and impacts the way that I engage other people. It alters the way that I speak. It alters the way that I love. It alters the way that I lead. It alters how engaged I am or am not. And this question of ownership is just this question of how is it impacting me? Can I be aware of the impact that my pain is having on me and on those around us? In the W is this question of welcome. Is where's the invitation of God in this? And in these brave communal spaces, what we are doing at its core is testing the tables of relationship. And this is a framework that we use, right? This idea that in good times, when things are light and heavy and beautiful, we got all sorts of room for that. But in these moments where life becomes heavy and difficult and we're holding something heavy, what relationship has the strength, has a table that is strong enough for me to bring those heavy things in and place that on the table, for us to sit together around that table and care for the weight of that? And one of the things we talk about a lot is that actually we need to test the table. That to assume a table is strong enough actually probably is quite unwise. So what does it look like for us in context of relationship to test? To take something and put it on the table, to see what it looks like when that is engaged, to explore together the experiences of what it means to be brave. And what we find is that the experience of safety in community, the experience of safety in relationship, this place where I am safe to bring me, is actually formed when my bravery is met with your bravery, and that bravery is acknowledged. And in that experience of me being brave and you being brave and us acknowledging each other, there's a cultivation of safety that makes the relationship table stronger, that makes our community stronger. And so at Church Wellco, we intentionally orient around this, that we are for growth, we are for learning, we're for advancement and joy and delight, but we also recognize that relationships that only orient around those will never answer the question of what do we do with the heavy things. And so at Church Wellco, we specifically create context for relationships around the heavy things, because I have never had a relationship with someone where I trust to hold the heavy things that I can't also laugh with. So we see that the trust goes back the other way, from heavy to light, from sorrow to delight, but it doesn't necessarily translate from delight into sorrow. So we create those spaces. So for those pastors, ministers, church leaders, organizational leaders who are sitting in places where you are caring for others and walking with others and find yourself carrying weight, I would invite you to consider checking us out. Churchwell.co is the website. Examining maybe some of the brave spaces that might be useful for you and for your context. We deeply believe that as we can lean further into relationship bravely, wisely, intentionally, reflectively with one another, it enhances the relational connection that Jesus wanted us to find, that God designed for us to live in and to have. And so churchwell.co is the website, and we would be grateful to help you explore brave spaces that are right for you and for your community.